Hello everybody and welcome back to JoEnglish. Now, I haven't done an only English video for quite a long time. So today I am going to test your listening skills. This video is going to be only in English and there are going to be some questions that you need to answer to test your understanding. So, are you ready? Let's go. So, what am I going to talk about today? Now, you know that I talk about myself and about my family quite a lot on this channel. So, you know where I live, you've met my wife, my children. I've done a video where I've talked about what I did before I lived in Italy. But there's still one thing I haven't talked about. I spent a lot of time in Australia and America. So today I'm going to be talking about those experiences. First, I'll talk about Australia and then I'll talk about America. But before each section, there are going to be some questions on the screen for you that you need to think about whilst I'm talking, and then you need to try to answer them. Obviously, let me know in the comments if you find this easy or difficult, because I'm going to be speaking at a normal pace. I know in some previous Only English videos, I've spoken a little bit slower. But today, I'm going to speak normal pace. So let me know in the comments how much you've understood, and also if you need to put on the subtitles. So let's start with my experiences in Australia, because in fact I've been there twice, I've lived there twice. The first time I went was in the year 2000, in February, I believe. I think I went from February to November. I wanted to stay the whole year. I wanted to stay from February to February, but I ran out of money, so I had to come home early. I'd always wanted to go to Australia, so the year 2000 for me was the perfect time to go because I had just finished my A-levels, which are the main exams that you take in England to then move on to university. So I did what's called a gap year. Now, lots of people do these gap years where you take time out to go travelling before going on to university. Now, I wanted to go to either Canada, South Africa, but I decided Australia would be best for me, simply because I'd read a lot about it and there were a few places that I really wanted to go. For example, I'd heard people talk about Uluru, and before it used to be called Ayers Rock, but now they've adopted the Aboriginal name Uluru. I'd always wanted to go there, so I thought Australia was the place for me. Obviously, as an 18-year-old going to Australia, I didn't have much money, so I needed a way to finance myself whilst I was there. Now, I didn't want to get a normal job picking fruit or working in a bar like lots of people did. So I worked for, I don't know if it was a charity or an organisation, I'm not sure, but it was called ATCV, Australian Trust for Conservation Volunteers. And basically, I actually paid them, funnily enough, but I think about $5 Australian a day. But they gave me all my food, my accommodation, my travel, and all I had to do for them was work, do voluntary work, lots of environmental things in return. So it was a really good experience. So I can remember I worked around Melbourne, and then I think I did, was it 3 months there? Then I had a week off, and then I did another 3 months in Brisbane, and so Queensland. Working for these people was amazing. One of the things I had to do was count kangaroos, believe it or not. So I can always remember being sat in the outback, counting kangaroos as they hopped past. It was incredible, to be perfectly honest. Other work was a bit more mundane. For example, weeding. We had to weed all of the non-native plants because they were taking over and killing native Australian plants. So we did a lot of weeding, and also pest control. Now, pest control, this was a bit more difficult because it involved killing some animals. I think, now I'm sure some viewers will be able to correct me, but I think back in the 1930s, Australia introduced the cane toad, which is a big toad about this big, because they wanted it to eat a variety of fly or something that was killing the crops. Unfortunately, they didn't, and then they just bred. And now they're a pest because even they are killing native wildlife. So every time we saw a cane toad, we had to kill it. Now, I know it's for the greater good, shall we say, but it was still a very difficult thing to have to do. And some people even killed rabbits, because even rabbits are a pest in Australia for the farmers. So I didn't get involved in that. I didn't feel comfortable doing it. But a lot of people did. And, you know, I can understand the reasons why. So yeah, basically, so that was the first time I went to Australia, and that's how I spent my time. Now, obviously, we did have time off and we went out and we saw lots of amazing places. And one place that will always stick in my memory is Kakadu National Park. Now, if you ever get the chance to go to Australia, go to the Northern Territory and go to Kakadu National Park. It is one of the the most amazing place I have ever been to in my life. There are Aboriginal drawings there that date back tens of thousands of years. And the views, the wildlife, just incredible. I saw saltwater crocodiles in the wild. Now that was a bit scary, but it was an experience that I'm going to treasure for the rest of my life. So the only regret I have about going to Australia then was that I didn't stay for New Year because I really wanted to see the firework display on Sydney Harbour Bridge. But unfortunately, like I said, I ran out of money, so I had to come back in November. But I did go back 2 years later. This time was to study because a part of my degree, I had the chance to study in Australia. So I said, yes, please. And I went to Sydney and I studied there. And I think so that would have been 2002. I believe, yes, 2002. Now, I studied in Sydney, and the weird thing was my commute to university was I could on a boat that it wasn't a sailing boat, that went past the Sydney Opera House and the Sydney Harbour Bridge. Now, for the first week or so, I was like, wow, this is amazing, going past these iconic landmarks. Then after a week, I was over it, so I was just reading my book, and it was surreal to see these things there. And also, towards the end, I started taking the bus because the novelty of seeing these things wore off. And I started taking the bus because it was about 10 minutes quicker. But like I said, Australia, I love Australia, and the reason that I became a teacher was to get points on my visa to be able to emigrate there. Now, obviously, other things have happened, and luckily I ended up in Italy, which was fantastic. But that's the only reason I became a teacher, was to get points on my visa to emigrate there. Okay, so that was my time in Australia. Now I'm going to talk to you about my time in America. I first went to America in 2001, so in between going to Australia. So I was in Australia for 2000, America for 2001, Australia for 2002, and then back to America in 2003. So I went to America this time for about 4 months at a time during the summer. I think, was it May, June, July and August, I think, of the summers of 2001 and 2003. And I left around September time. And it was brilliant. I decided to do it because I'd started university, and you have quite long summer breaks, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I wanted to work, I wanted to earn a bit of money, but I didn't want to just go back to the pub where I was working. So I signed up for what's called Camp America. And in Camp America, they organise an experience for you. They find you a camp, a children's camp to work in, and then you can do various things. You run activities for the children, you look after them, you go on excursions with them, and it was brilliant. And I've met some fantastic people doing this. Now, mine was in a camp called Camp Neshoba, and it was in upstate New York. I think, if I remember correctly, about 2 hours outside of the city. So we would get 1 day off a week. And what we would normally do is get on a bus and all go into New York City for the day and then come back. So I spent a lot of time in New York City, and to be honest, I think it's probably my favourite city in the world, with Rome a close second, but I think, New York is my favourite city. And it was a really, really interesting time. My personal role was looking after the younger children, so the 6 and 7-year-olds. So although they went to bed early, so we had a lot of time spare in the evening, during the day it was non-stop. I don't know if I could manage it now. It was non-stop, literally from 6:30 in the morning till about 8 at night until they went to bed. So they were long days. However, other of my friends, they were looking after, so like the 16-year-olds. Now, obviously, during the day, they didn't do much because 16-year-olds can look after themselves, going from activity to activity. But in the evening, they had a lot to do. They needed to make sure they were going to bed on time, that they weren't sneaking out and going to see, their friends and things like that. So they had a different challenge in their job. But I enjoyed mine, and I'm pleased I worked with the younger children. Whilst working there, I met a good friend who I'm still in contact with today, Johnny Bowie, and I went then to visit him because he was at university in America. So I then went to stay with him in Champaign, Illinois. So it's just south of Chicago. And I stayed with him at university for a bit and experienced a bit of university life in America, which was fantastic, a really good experience. And then we went back to New York City. Now, obviously, this was the 2001 September 11 attacks. We flew out of New York just a couple of days before the Twin Towers were attacked. So I always count myself very lucky for that. And in fact, when we went back in 2003, a lot of the people that we met in 2001 had stories about how they'd lost friends and family in the attacks, because where we were, it was quite a wealthy camp. So a lot of the parents would work in the city, and so therefore, they knew a lot of people who either lost their lives or knew somebody, who had lost their lives. So it was quite a surreal moment going back in 2003. But two experiences that I will always look back on with fondness, and I'm going to try and encourage my children to do something similar if they get the opportunity. Now, I've been very lucky in the sense that doing this travelling, going and working abroad in Britain, when I was leaving school, what I did was normal. So many people did it. My parents encouraged me to go. And I know it can be quite difficult for some people because I went travelling. I didn't have hardly any money, and I didn't earn much money when I was there either. But the experiences that I had were priceless, basically. Like in America, I think I worked the whole summer, and I think I earned about $1,200, which isn't a lot for the work I put in, but I didn't do it for the money. I did it for the experience. And then at the end, we had a really good time. I spent nearly all my money in New York. It is what it is. But it was, I did it more of an experience than simply to earn money. And I think, like I said, I'm going to try and encourage my children to have similar experiences, because I think that's what life's all about at the end of the day. So there we are. Those are my experiences in Australia and America. Like I said, I hope you've understood. Let me know in the comments, and also let me know how you got on with the answers to the questions I've put, and I'm going to put those up now at the end of the video. Okay, so Check your answers and let me know in the comments how many you got right. Okay, thank you very much everybody, and I'll see you soon.